Good afternoon, and thank you for joining today's webinar, 7 Dynamic Ways to Grow Your Membership. My name is Isa Hackick. I am an employee of Redback Conferencing and your facilitator for today's session. Today's webinar is all about understanding membership growth and how small changes can make big results to your membership organisation. Before we get started, some housekeeping rules for newcomers. Today's webinar will be in listen-only mode, which means that if you do wish to ask a question to either the presenter or myself, please use the text chat functionality. This is located in the bottom left corner of your screen. And if you experience any issues in hearing the sound coming from your computer, please feel free to listen to the webinar through your telephone. To do this, simply dial the toll-free 1-800 number provided in the message box, and when prompted, enter the passcode provided. Please also note that the webinar will be recorded and you will receive a copy of this along with the presentation slides in 48 hours. Now, we would like to welcome back one of our star presenters, Kevin Carhalane. Kevin is known as the membership guru and has worked with some of Australia's top associations, clubs and not-for-profit organisations. Alex Mackin from Seneca Marketing will also be joining Kevin. So without any further ado, I would now like to pass it over to Kevin and Alex.
Thank you very much, Isa. Thank you for the introduction, and welcome to Alex as well, my associate who has a very, very strong marketing background and absolutely sublime social media skills, who will be co-presenting some of the areas with me. It's kind of the old bull and the young Turk, and I guess he's the young Turk. I usually like to have a punchy opening today, and I really thought about it and came up with absolutely nothing. So what I want to do is I want to make a very solemn pledge to all of you as you're joining us, and the numbers are building a little bit here. No weasel words. How's that? For the entire presentation, no weasel words. No empower or paradigm shift, state-of-the-art, game changer. I won't mention moving forward, certainly won't mention best in breed, and I am not going to talk about sustainability. So I hope everybody really does appreciate that. We'll try to keep it as simple and as down to earth as we possibly can. First thing to start off, I'd like to have a very quick polling question if I could. And Isa's going to take everybody to the poll round about now. I want to ask the question, did you attend the 2012 webinar conducted last May? And it's pretty much quite a number of people. A couple did, and about 97% didn't. Okay. All right, I think we can probably stop the poll now. It seems the majority of people did not attend last year. So what I'd like to do, we'll move straight into the presentation. As Isa said, it's 7 dynamic ways to grow your membership. And let's start at number 1. And that first one is, I want to implore everybody in the room to start thinking like a corporation or a quality small, medium enterprise. What do I mean by that? Well, rather than as a not-for-profit, I honestly believe that people in this industry, and it is a fine industry, and I've been working here for many years, and I made a lot of friends and a lot of good colleagues. I think we've got to look at becoming more strategic to achieve our objectives. And that's one of the things that I've got another couple of slides out that I'm going to discuss in about 2 or 3 minutes. Another area is break your membership growth into specific stages. Now, the reason I asked if anybody had attended, and most people had not attended the 2012 webinar we gave, I want to go through what I gave last year, 10 stages of membership growth. I'm going to do it very quickly, but I think it would be worthwhile as a brief review to go through the 10 stages of membership growth I spoke about last year. Another area to talk about today is communicating and building relationships, known as member relationship management. Creating prospects and qualifying them, turning those prospects into members, turning them into members for life and a great source of referrals, and also bearing in mind that every satisfied member that you deal with has a net value. These are areas that I think are so very, very important. I'm also going to say here that probably in the next 12 to 18 months, with the last bullet point that's come up, probably 80% of people in this industry are going to be looking at sales. By that I mean either a sales representative or a business development manager, but people who are actually going to sell members to join your association. A number of business-to-business associations already do that, but I also believe it's going to be something that's going to become endemic to this industry. People are going to appoint salespeople. I really think that's the next big thing, because one of the things that I find lacking in this industry is the ability to sell, to build a rapport, to find people's hot buttons, to ask good quality questions, and really hook people in to your association or organization. So that's a couple of my predictions for the next couple of years. Now, one of the things that I'd like to talk about in this is I believe that obviously we need to build objectives. My definition is very, very simple. It's specific. In business context, it's the numbers or dollar amounts. In other words, it's a 10%, 15% increase in membership. It's a $50,000 growth in membership. It's something that you yourselves can measure, and it's also something I believe is time frame driven. So you give yourself a month, 3 months, whatever it might be. To that, I think everybody needs a strategy. And my very, very simple definition of strategy is a plan of action or actions designed to achieve your objective or objectives. For instance, if part of your objective is to grow your membership by 15% in 1 year, then part of the strategy might be to develop a series of member acquisition channels, to develop a member sales funnel, and to work the sales funnel with a high-quality sales strategy. Those might be some of the areas to be looking at over the course of the next 12 months for a number of you out there. Now, the first thing that I'd like to, as I said, I've got a couple of slides to work with in number one. First thing I'd like to look at is steps to becoming a strategic organization. I've got 4. First one is what I call reactive. And this one I give out as a little bit of fun. Unfortunately, sometimes people say, oh, that's us, which is a bit sad. You know, it's got things like messages, your call is important to us. I just wonder why people don't pick up the phone and talk to people. Another thing that comes out with reactive organizations, they're always too busy to interact or engage with their members. They've always got something else to do aside from being active in their membership endeavors. They work through the basic processes. That's all they do. And that's very, very much what a reactive organization does. Oh, and one other thing, they send you an annual renewals notice. I'm sure that everybody in your travels have come across organizations that are reactive. And I got to tell you, they've got a long way to go before they're ever going to be considered a strategic organization. Next stage, I believe, is people in organizations that are responsive. They mostly understand the needs of their members, not always, but they try to get it right more often than they get it wrong. They do strive to meet member expectations. They do encourage member interaction, and I endorse that. And they understand the concept of member engagement. Responsive organizations, look, that's good, but no cigar. Let's go to the third step. This is what I call organizations and people within organizations who are proactive. Now, proactive, well, first thing is these people are able to create and control situations. They have good marketing skills. They have good complaint management. They've probably got a good database that they can keep in contact with their members. So they don't wait for problems to approach them. They actually create and control given situations. They follow through with members as an absolute priority. They see members as very, very important in their business lives. People who are proactive within an organization tend to thrive on personal responsibility. And to me, responsibility means simply they do the right thing, and they do it often. They also accept organizational accountability. That's proactive. Now you can have the cigar. Let's go for the last one. Strategic. What does strategic mean? Well, people that I've worked with that are strategic people have a solid focus on organization goals. The organization, the people within the organization know where they're going and know how to get there. People tend to want to build long-term member relationships. That is very, very important to them. They want them there year after year and bringing other members on board. A strategic organization is innovative and value-driven organization. What does that mean? Well, basically speaking, if it's a business-to-business organization, they're very, very much into networking with their members. I don't know all of you who are in business-to-business associations out there, but networking is probably number one in why members join you. Safety and security could be a very, very important area. A couple of organizations I've worked for instance, the Breastfeeding Association of Australia and the Crohn's and Colitis Association of Australia, both rank safety and security. Member feedback is very, very important to them. Do you educate your members? Yeah, we've got CPD programs and things like that, but I have known of an organization just recently that are losing their members to other CPD programs for the very simple reason it may be cost-driven or they may be offering better benefits. That's going to hurt. Improve business. Make more money. I'll bet you anybody that's a retailer these days that belongs to an association is probably asking their association, how are we going to make more money? Everyone works as a team to drive membership growth. And team building is one of the things I'd like to talk about. It's one of the 7 dynamic ways to grow your membership. Okay, let's have a look at the last area in number 1, and then we'll move to number 2. As I said, this was what I focused on for about an hour last year, and it went down really well. And as most of you weren't here, I'd like to take just a couple of minutes to review the key points. The 10 stages of membership growth. The first one is resonance, and as I said last year, and I put a lot more time into it, how do people relate to your brand and how do you promote yourselves? A lot of membership-based organizations don't do a really good job of promoting themselves and letting members know what they're doing for them, what they've done for them, and what they're going to do in the future. Your recruitment campaigns. Do you actively seek prospects? And when you gain those prospects, do you actively sell them into memberships? The third one, how do you look after your first-year members? I could probably talk about that for the whole afternoon. I like to set up, when I work within an organization, I like to set up a full 12-month first-year membership plan. I think everybody pretty well agrees that's the biggest cause of turnover is the first-year member who doesn't get what they think they're going to get. The next one, hey, pretty snappy. They all start with the letter R. Have you noticed that? Retention, engagement channels. How do you communicate? How do you engage with your members? Alex is going to cover a little bit more of that. We've got a little bit more to talk about with that. Review, member feedback. How many of you actually conduct surveys, real value type surveys? I know Alex and I have done a couple of surveys, and sometimes they've worked really well. Sometimes we've had to beg the people we're working for, please, you're asking too many questions. One survey Alex and I did for 2 years in a row had something like 47 questions with about 25 variables. It was unbelievable. Last year, Alex, I think it was down to about 18% participated, wasn't it?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, it was very, very low feedback. Revenue, law of leverage. A very, very simple, obviously I spoke about it a little bit more last year. Number of members times the number of times you contact those members and the dollar value of every single interaction can grow your revenue by 10%, 15%, or up to 70% in a year. A lot of corporate organizations understand the law of leveraging. I don't have time to go into it in detail today. However, anybody that wants any further information, shoot me an email. Anybody that attends today, I will help you in any way I can. Renewals. Do you take a multimedia approach, and do you start your renewals campaign early? And it doesn't matter to me whether it's renewals once for everybody or whether, in fact, it's date of joining type individual renewals. Do you actively seek to gain lost members back? I remember a job I did with Zoos Victoria. This was about 18 months ago, and we did a telemarketing campaign, And the amazing thing was we contacted 8,000 members that had actually left. They were lost members. They had left for 6 months or more, and we got over 5,000 of those members back. I don't think I've ever conducted a more fulfilling campaign. And also Zoos Victoria were very good. They sent me on a walk with the elephants. They put me amongst the meerkats. They actually let me out. And I love animals, and it was a really pleasure to do that campaign. Another area, raise the standards. I always look in my own personal business life to improve and grow. Anything I can do, anything I can learn, and I've been like that most of my life, from going back maybe 30 years sitting in a car with a cassette player to now I go to gym, I read, and I do everything I possibly can to improve and grow myself. And the final thing, reinvent yourself, reinvent your organization from time to time. One person that I have to say, not a major fan, but I really admire for her reinvention is Madonna. Every 3 to 4 years, that lady has totally reinvented herself. She comes across as somebody totally different, pretty much the same as I think Kylie Minogue is very much in the same boat. They reinvent themselves, and they have had absolutely sterling careers. And I think any organization might look at, are we going a little bit stale? What do we need to do to raise the standards and become a little bit better? Those are the 10 stages, and I honestly believe that each one of those stages that we've just very quickly discussed can have objectives and can have a working strategy. Let's move on. As it says there, sales and marketing are not mutually exclusive. My prediction in 2013 to 2014, 80% plus of organizations, whether business to business, business to consumer, or clubs and leisure services, will start to focus on selling memberships, sponsorships, donorships, the whole shebang. I'd like to give you a little definition of selling. It's the art and the science of persuading a person to take a course of action that will benefit them. And the reason I promote selling is because I honestly believe I've had years and years of work in industry and commerce, in sales training and working with salespeople, coaching managers, and this is one of the fundamentals of sales. And I think this industry, I honestly feel this industry is going to pick up on the sales message. And also, what's very, very important is most of you probably have marketing, and I think from one degree or another, you would have very, very good marketing campaigns. But I think what's very, very important, sales works with marketing. And also excellent member service. It drives membership. It drives revenue growth at every single stage. Selling, driven by quality marketing campaigns, well, it focuses on a one-to-one basis. It focuses on a small group basis, and it focuses on the telephone. And that I believe that more and more organizations today are going to get more and more into selling. I'm going to start now on number 4, communications across the board. I love this definition from Bill Gates. I guess he has a right to make definitions. The most meaningful way to differentiate your company from your competition is to do an outstanding job with information. How you gather, manage, and use information will determine whether you win or lose. Well, looking at communication tools to gather and manage and use information, I'll go through these fairly quickly, and then I'll hand you over to Alex in just a moment. First one that I find very, very important, your website. So many people in this industry are updating and looking at building their website and making it not only member acquisition, but also a great place for members to go to. No longer just looking at members-only areas. I remember one website, I checked the members-only area, and it had a bunch of their old magazines online. That was basically it, newsletters, things like that. People are changing. Your social media strategy, and here's where I'm going to hand over to Alex, who's going to talk about a couple of things with you in a moment. I also believe what's very, very important is your direct marketing and your email direct marketing campaigns as a form of communication. And yes, I actually do believe in Australia Post as a very effective form in certain cases of getting a message across to members and also in recruiting new members. Your publications, online or conventional, Again, many of you have fine publications and they work extremely well. Are they member focused? Do they give information to members that they really want and need? Forums, and I know this is touching in social media, but good online forums that encourage members to participate in Facebook and LinkedIn, in blogs that you do. And another area that I'm very, very aware of is the telephone. I find it's probably one of the most powerful marketing and communication media of everything that's out there. Very good things can come from the telephone, not so good things. It really does depend on how it's used. So those are some of the communication tools to enable you to gather and manage and use information. What I'd like to do now is to hand you over to Alex Macon, who's going to take you through a couple of areas of social media.
Thank you. Social media is obviously a component that can be used to encourage membership, and also looking at obviously retaining existing members, but also promoting your organisation to new members. Kevin outlined a number of different areas of communications in that previous slide. It's worth remembering that each of those communication tools need to work in tandem with each other. So it's important that your social media campaigns, your direct marketing campaigns, your website all use the same language, the same branding, and the same key messages to help promote those goals of your organisation. So we thought it would be useful as we look at social media specifically to touch on a few aspects. The firstly being blogging, and many of you may have heard the term blogging, but ultimately a blog fundamentally is a component on a website that is regularly kept up to date. So it can be very useful to use the blogging functionality to include media releases, newsletter, other advice that your organisation can promote. The reason you want to keep your website regularly up to date is to offer value to your members as well as also to prospective members, but also to provide that integration back to social media. You can actually integrate new posts or new content on your website directly into social media. And that means you're writing content once, but being able to extend the networks that you're able to reach. Touching on a couple of social media tools that do exist, obviously Facebook being a significant one. Over half the population of Australia is currently on Facebook. If you want to look at reaching an extensive network, being able to leverage the members that you have to reach other prospective members and their peers, it's certainly worthwhile looking at Facebook. Facebook allows you to build that online community and to promote any events that you undertake, as well as also to devote branded pages for your organisation. Once again, providing that consistency in terms of who you are, what it is you promote, and the value that you're able to provide to members. There's often a lot of debate around social media being the domain of younger demographics, and it's worth pointing out that the fastest growing segment of new Facebook accounts are the so-called baby boomers, people aged 55 plus, who are now one of the fastest growing segments of new Facebook accounts. So Facebook is often no different to where mobile phones were 10 years ago, where email was around about 10, 15 years ago, in being very effective in being able to reach a wide demographic. And Facebook can be quite useful in reaching business-to-business markets as well, particularly through promoting your page and encouraging that page to be promoted in their businesses as well. I'll hand back to Kevin, who will look at some of the broader communication tools as well.
Okay, Alex, there's a question there, which I think you might take a moment, if you would, from Tanya. Is Facebook an effective strategy for business to business? That's something that I wrestle with, and I'd like to hand that one over to you.
Look, it can be useful in reaching business-to-business networks, but ultimately the Facebook interaction is with an individual. So ultimately it'll be reaching the proprietors or the key stakeholders of those businesses. Certainly if you're looking at an exclusive business-to-business market, then other tools like LinkedIn can be more effective. Those two slides that I just went through is part of a fuller presentation looking at social media specifically. It's worth noting that LinkedIn has basically in Australia 3 million users, which is actually fairly high given when you look at the working population of Australia being roughly 10 million and about half of those being in that sort of professional category that LinkedIn actively engages. So if you are looking specifically or exclusively at a business-to-business market, certainly worth looking at LinkedIn.
So those 3 million people are doing their LinkedIn at work. Is that correct, Alex?
Yeah, in fact, a lot of them are actually using social media at work, and
Right.
well worth bearing in mind some of the policies that you'd want around social media interaction as well.
Excellent. Another point that came in from Shreya, and I hope I've got the name right, and it's an interesting one. In my opinion, telemarketing can be considered as a breach of privacy. Absolutely. It can be for sure. People who are making phone calls from places like India and the Philippines and cold calling people late at night and things like that, it's a dead set breach of privacy. However, I think you would find that if you have members of your organization or your business-to-business association, telemarketing would not be considered a breach of privacy by something like 99% of those people. I've worked for everybody from credit unions to business associations to, well, as we said, Zoos Victoria. We did a big drive for the Alpaca Association last year, and very, very few, if any, members or prospective members that you ring would consider that their rights are being breached. But yes, I totally agree where it's cold calling and people are trying to sell products or services just out of the blue. It's a total breach of privacy and probably too often. And we have a little comment there from Allison that you've used Facebook marketing very effectively to promote your Chamber Business Awards to members and prospective nominees. Amazing tool to target niche markets. Thank you very much, Allison.
Great example of where Facebook and particularly sharing functionality can really be utilised very effectively to promote good news stories.
Great. Thanks, Alex. And anything else, just jump in. I'll come back to you in a minute. Okay, some communication strategies that incorporate, well, basically this is who we communicate to, and I'll ask a couple of questions at the end of it. Basically, obviously, your members and or your donors. Again, your first-year members, and somebody else has said more information on first-year members will be great. Well, one thing that I'm going to say on first-year members, they are a breed apart in many ways. You've worked hard to get a member to come on board. Some people, some organizations simply integrate the member in with the mainstream members, your 5-year members, your 10-year members, and things like that. I believe that's probably wrong. I think it's probably a good thing to either appoint them a mentor or a buddy to get in contact with the first-year member and to ensure through good database management that they are attending events or functions and taking advantage of all of the benefits you offer. If they're not, and they haven't done anything by about 6 months, then at that mark, they're probably not going to be a member in the second year. And I even advocate doing a separate I guess in many ways just a feedback survey. I call it a mini member survey of new members and see if they're happy with what you've got and what else they would like. So yeah, I think first-year members are really important to communicate to separately. Prospective members, well, what do you do with them? If somebody, you've got them on your database, or somebody who could be interested, how do you communicate to them? Do you have newsletters? Do you let them have some of the information that you give to members, but not all of it? You don't want to give away the shop. Do you phone prospective members? And again, if they could be high net worth, that's probably worth it. Lost members. Again, I've mentioned there Zoos Victoria, which was a big campaign, where you have people who were with you at one stage. How do you try to get them back on board? And one little tip I'll give here, everybody, the longer you leave them, the more challenging it actually is to get them back on board. Another one is your sponsors. I find this really interesting. Obviously, sponsorship is a major, major deal in the industry. And again, you work very hard to get sponsors. How do you relate to your sponsors? How do you work with your sponsors? Do you treat them like gold? Do you introduce them wherever possible to your members, particularly your premium members and people like that? I do know for a fact, being a very simple guy, sponsors love interaction with members. Your stakeholders, there are probably a lot of other people that have things to do with your organization. How do you communicate with them? Do you let them know their value? Do you let them know what's going on and happening? Your team. How many times I've heard the term, we just get treated like mushrooms. And I think everybody understands exactly what that term means. Your team, very, very important that you communicate with them, that the CEO gets out and talks to people and understands what people are doing in their job roles, and everybody does work as a team. And finally, your volunteers. I've heard lovely stories about how people work with volunteers, and I've heard some incredible stories about how people have worked with volunteers. Some volunteers have been allowed to run riot, but generally if you manage them well and you work with them well, they can produce great results. One interesting thing I'll say very quickly is I've actually used volunteers with sporting clubs in gaining back lost members. They are very, very passionate about their membership, and they will talk to lost members and give them some compelling arguments to come back to the club, or sit on the phone talking about footy for 15 minutes with them and forget to ask them. But these are little things that we overcome. The questions I would ask here: how do you communicate with all of these people? What communications do you utilize? How do you go across all groups and all segments of people that are there for you to communicate with? Because I think that is one of the most important areas, is communication in building membership. That leads us directly to number 4, which is member relationship management, or as I call it, it's called CRM, but I think as we're member-based, we can call it MRM. And what I've got here is what I think is not a bad little definition as a total marketing solution, providing a means and a method to, as it says, identify, capture, service, educate, and retain members using good people, technology, and a good communication strategy. The second point there, it creates a unified view of the member across the organization. This is so very, very important. The bigger the organization, the more people have a need to know certain areas about how the members operate. Enhance the experience of individual members so that they will remain members for life, and quantify and deliver lifetime value to your members. I still am a bit out to lunch about members for life, but I thought I would chuck that in. Hopefully that doesn't qualify as weasel words. Good MRM drives every stage of the membership process. It is just so important. To look at the next slide, a little quote there: knowledge is power and information is king. Absolutely. Vendors, your MRM supplier. As it says there, choose your member relationship management supplier wisely. We've got them. A few of them are on membership growth, and we're happy to promote them. But I always ask the question, when you're working with a supplier or a vendor, do they understand your current needs? Do they make an effort to find out what you're looking for? Do they understand where you're going? And are they going to help you to get there? Will they actually become your valued partner? I know in a couple of areas I worked with one organization, and we were looking at member recruitment, and one of the things I said, okay, with your MRM system, you need a good prospect module. And they looked at me in total disbelief, and they said, our supplier never told us about that. And I talked to the supplier, and they basically said, oh, they never asked. Something wrong there. And the other thing I often find is some organizations, just like yourselves, are left 100% in the hands of techos. Again, they're very, very important, and they've got lots of wisdom and knowledge, but I also think you need somebody else in the organization who would have more understanding of the sales process and the service process to work with you as well. So that's 4 points now. We're coming to point 5, and again, any questions or comments from people, I'll be very happy. We can stop and we can respond as we go. I'm quite into doing that. Next one is what I call teamwork for results and relationships. Now, I have met people in membership-based organizations, and they said, I'm the team. Well, I don't know. I'd ask questions such as, who is your membership team, and who is in your membership team? How about your president? How about your board or committee? How about the CEO? And I know out there today a couple of names I know. They're fairly senior people. And I know that you are part of the team. And in many cases, you drive the team. All the staff, volunteers, anybody else who is working with you is part and parcel of your membership team. It's not just you on your own. What do people do to drive membership and member revenue growth? Again, I find this very, very important. How a team works together. And I've got a couple of other slides, or one other slide, that I'll answer this particular question. This is a punchy little acronym. Together, everyone achieves more success, more members, and more revenue. Alone, it really is difficult out there. So I hope that as many people in your organization that work within the organization. I'll give you a quick example here. I've done some work with my local football team. I'm based in Mornington, and I thought it wouldn't be a bad thing to give a little bit back to the community. And they have a committee, and one of the things I've always disparagingly said is check all the parks in all the cities. You won't find statues of committees. Well, the people at the Mornington Footy Club are very, very dedicated people, and I've done a few things for them. And the good news on that is we've gone from last year, they had about a 0 membership base. I think they had maybe a dozen if they were lucky. And this year, we've played about 4 rounds, and they've got 101 members. So we've done some good, but I wouldn't have done that certainly on my own. It was all about working with a small team of very, very dedicated volunteers. What I like to do on this segment is run through the attributes of a great team. And this is for any of you that have got 3 or more people that you can work together. There's about probably 7 things here, and I think they're all really important. A really, really good team has a strong commitment to member service excellence. The member is number 1 always. They're also serious about selling memberships. As I've said a couple of times today, and I'll probably leave it alone now, membership sales is probably something that's going to come to the fore in the next 6, 12, 18 months for most of you. Third, they're very old-fashioned in their member response and engagement. They really believe in the power of doing things for their members. They adopt a 0 tolerance to member complaints. That's everybody in the team. They meet member expectations. They will exceed them where appropriate. I'm not a great one for the mantra of you must exceed member expectations every time. I think most people want their expectations met. They're motivated and focused, and they build member relationships and loyalty. As we talked about before, it's all about long-term. And the last thing, working together to grow membership and member revenue, that's the attributes of a great team. Alex, anything you'd like to add to that?
Look, certainly there's a need to ensure that membership is instilled within your entire organisation. Just as a brand needs to reflect your organisation, there needs to be a focus on membership from all levels. Every time someone comes into contact with your organisation, whether it's through phone, email, through the door, they're being left with an impression of how your organisation works, what its messages are, and the services it provides to them as a member. That all needs to work in tandem with each other to provide that clear focus and that clear identity of what it is you're providing and what you're able to provide in turn to those members.
Excellent. Thanks, Alex. All right. A very, very quick, this is a little bit of shameless promotion. It's going to take about 1 minute, and then we'll move to number 6. Membership growth, we've got a number of complementary tools and resources that you can visit our website. We have a complimentary newsletter, and we get contributions from people like Alex, and we get contributions from Sarah Gonzalez of Redback Conferencing, and a lot of other people, and there's great tips and guidelines for people who read it. We probably have the world's #1 membership building program called the Membership Growth Toolkit. We have some high quality but very, very good value for money resources. We have in-house training, member services, member development and strategy. We have social media strategy, website design, keynote speaking. As I think I said before or alluded to, if I can't do it, Alex can do it. And if neither of us can do it, we'll get the team that can do it for you. Whew, that was it. Shameless self-promotion. Okay, let's move on. Oh, yeah, we're also involved with LinkedIn. We have a group on LinkedIn, and Alex and I are pretty easy to find. Okay, point 6 is member service excellence. And this is putting everything together of the 7 key points. Members like to deal with people, well, who can communicate by asking and listening. I think that's very, very important. Really good communication skills. Who are genuinely empathetic. That is, they put themselves in the member's shoes. They see things from the member's point of view. They like to communicate and deal with people who understand their wants and needs. That's often what I see as a big complaint about members in an organization. They like to deal with people like yourselves who are calm and cool under pressure. They like to deal with people who are competent and confident. And that's people with the right skills, the right knowledge, but most of all, the right attitude. I have often been asked, say, okay, in areas of skills, knowledge, and attitude, what is most important? Well, the reality, how often do you use your skills? You might use 5 to 10% of your total skill set at any one time. What about your knowledge? Yeah, 5 to 10% at any one time. Attitude to me is 80% of any interaction. Members like to deal with people who face moments of truth with professionalism. That was a great book written many, many years ago. Members like to deal with people who make it convenient, who make it easy, who make easy access, and who get back to them. Members like to deal with people who are totally committed to them, the members. And I think those 7 or 8 steps are really what make membership growth possible. And as Henry Ford said, the customer pays the wages, the employer is merely the paymaster. And he said that around about 1912. So I thought it was very appropriate to bring that up. Excellent member service, well, what does it do? And I know this is probably in many ways, people, it's a blinding flash of the obvious, but let's look at it. It truly builds member loyalty. It leads to more member interaction more often. In other words, your members will attend your forums. They will talk to you on LinkedIn. They'll come on to Facebook because they think you're a good organization and you care about them. It gains a higher level of member satisfaction, and it gains member referrals. Have you all heard of radio station WOMM, WOM? It stands for word of mouth marketing, and I think it's a very, very powerful tool. Also, excellent member service makes your life easier. Now, we'll finish up on number 6, and then we'll move into the last one. As it says, excellent member service, what does it do? Well, everyone within your organization is a member service professional. Everyone. Have any of you heard or spoken to people who say, oh, I'm not employed to deal with members? Well, what are you there for? High-quality member service is easier to manage, and it's far more rewarding to deliver. My goodness, I go and do some simple workshops and things, and I meet people. Everything is a drama. They don't want to do this. They don't want to do that. And, yeah, okay, lose a few more members, and that's how it's going to work. Been a big fan of this. Toxic employees have no place in your space. I did make that up. Okay, maybe you don't like it. But I honestly meet some people who are dead set toxic within organizations, and the best thing I can say is get rid of them. If you've got a HR department, fine, dance the dance with them, and then get rid of them. Attitude, motivation, proactive people, energy, and enthusiasm with the member in mind. Excellent service and response will also turn prospects into members, and I think that's an important area too. Reward your member every time they contact you through every channel, even if it's as simple as saying thank you. Now, your brand. This is number 7, and this is a really, really important area, I think, for everybody, because I think if we've got number 6 right, your brand is going to shine. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to have a poll in a sec. I would like everybody, please, to stare intently at those 4 symbols. And Aiza, in one moment, is going to put up a little poll. But first I'm going to ask you, which symbol do you relate to? As you're looking at the symbols, which symbol do you say, yes, that is my organization? All right, stare at the symbols, and right now pick the circle, the hexagon, the triangle, or the square. Oh, we've got a few hexagons. Good, good. Hexagon. Oh, got our first triangle. Yep. Everybody in? Real quick, it should be just one of these quick decisions. Okay, are we all done? Little moment longer? All right, we've got all that. Okay, everybody can see there? Right. Let's have a look at what we've got here. Those of you who picked the square, your organization and the people within your organization, it's seen as a strong, decisive organization. It's a leader in its field. So I bet you people who picked the square are feeling really good right now. People who picked the triangle, there was a few, a little bit of hesitation, but there was a few people who picked the triangle. You don't stick to the status quo. You're unique. You're different. And people, triangles really are. And I bet you're feeling kind of good about yourself right now, too. Let's look at the hexagons. Now, who picked the hexagon? Okay. Hexagons, you'll have many, many friends. Your organization is known as a friendly organization. People like to talk to other people in your organization. Everybody smiles. There were a few hexagons. Are you smiling now? Now let's look at who picked the circle. Okay, people who picked the circle, you're obsessed with sex. Let's move on. Now, normally that gets a little bit of laughter. I hope we've got some silent laughter there, and I hope nobody really objects. But one of the things that I often find happening, particularly looking at branding and looking at marketing, we get some ridiculous things to pick out. What I'd like to look at is perhaps 6 key things, and then I'm going to look to Alex to give us a little bit of feedback as well about your brand. I believe it's a sum of all your attributes, and it's probably everything we spoke about today. Do you offer real value and benefits to your members? When they see your brand and see what you stand for, do they feel that, yes, you are a very, very value-based and beneficial organization to be a member? How are you positioned in the hearts and minds of your members? How do they feel? Do they feel really, really good and emotional when they see your brand? How do your members identify with your brand? Do they seem very, very much a part of it? An interesting exercise, I worked with a lady just recently, and we worked with a business organization to do a rebranding strategy. And one of the things that found was that people just could not relate to the branding itself. They came up with all sorts of different things that they felt it stood for. And we had to just spend a lot of time looking at how we're going to give everybody one common definition and identification. Are you seen as an innovative organization? I often ask the question, what does innovation mean? And people say, oh, it means something new, do something new. Yes, it does, and no, it doesn't. It also means eliminating from within what isn't working within your organization. Improve things that are working in your organization, make them better, and then add new things. Add new and interesting things to impress your members, particularly circles. How do you promote your brand to your member segments? Do you actually, and I mentioned this before, do you actually wave your own flag a little bit and really make sure that different segments are very aware of what you're doing for them and they see the brand as really working for them? And finally, what is your unique selling proposition? That's from the era of 1960s advertising people. If anybody has seen the series Mad Men, that's very, very much a part of the series. Unique selling proposition. What brings members to your doors? What keeps them there? That's probably 2 of the most important questions you're ever going to ask to somebody. Why did you join our organization? Why are you staying with our organization? Because that, in many ways, will tell you what you need to know to recruit other people and to keep people satisfied. Alex, I turn to you for a moment, if I may. You've got some pointers, I'm sure, on branding.
Yeah, as we mentioned, the brand is all those attributes combined, and it's the value that those members, those prospective members, your current members, actually possess when they think about your organisation. So it's very important that all your promotional tools, your unique selling proposition, the key messages, work in tandem to promote that brand. A brand itself is intangible. It doesn't exist, but it's the values that someone as a member holds true about your organisation. And this is where it's really important to get the customer service aspects right as well, because it's those points every time that someone contacts your organisation that forms their view of that brand and what your organisation represents.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Alex. Basically speaking, that is the end of the presentation. Now, we normally try to end about 7 or 8 minutes early, which we have done today, and we normally get a few questions. I also believe that Isa would like you to fill in a brief survey before you leave this online discussion. Now, we'll throw it open to the group. Are there any questions to Alex or myself? Is there anything that you'd like to briefly discuss with either of us? Okay, numbers are dwindling a little bit here. We've lost a couple. Anybody that has a question? Yes, I see a couple coming in, so we'll just wait a moment here. Please, we'll answer in any way we can, and if anybody wants Alex or myself to send them something or get in touch with them, happy to do that. I'm happy to help anybody that's come here today in any way that I can. There are a couple of questions coming in, so we might just hold on for a moment. Okay, that would be me, and I will send you a little bit of information on that, certainly, Becky. I'll jot that down shortly. Yep, no problem at all. Anybody else? Any ideas to increase subscriber rates to a list? Tom, are we talking about a list that you've been either purchased or that you've built up? Could you just clarify that, Tom, and I'll come back to you. Chris W., yes, I think, Asa, the slides are going to be available within about 2 working days. Everybody will get access to the slides. And you will actually get the webinar as well, Tina, so that's okay. Tom, building a list. Okay. Any ideas to increase subscriber rates to a list? I think if you build a list, I think one of the things that you've got to do, it's what I call a sales funnel, Tom and everybody. And to build a sales funnel, you need to work through every single contact with a person. Now, let me give you a couple of examples. You put on an event. At that event, you'll make contact with non-members. Record their names and addresses, or if you've already got their names and addresses as attendee, ask for their permission to contact them back. That's one way to build a list. Everybody that rings in with a question who's not a member, then add them to the list. Now, what you've got is what I call a sales funnel. And you build that sales funnel through acquisition channels, events, your website, all manner of things where people contact you or you meet people, and you start building that and you start to grow it. And that's when you then actively start to sell it. And for Tom and everything, what's best to offer here? Okay, special report, absolutely. A video tutorial, absolutely. The only other thing I'm going to say, Tom, to that is it should be something that people see of value. And that's probably the best thing that I could say. And the second thing I could say is keep working that list, Tom. Alex, anything you'd like to add?
It's about offering the incentive. So if you want to encourage people to sign up, offer the incentive and the benefits that they receive by actually signing up to those lists. And once they do sign up, do engage them. It's not just simply an exercise of getting people onto a list. It's about using that list and having those regular communications.
Great, thanks. Alrighty, I think we've covered everybody here that has asked the question. Anybody else? Anybody else at the moment typing has got another question for us? Yes, somebody is actually typing just at the moment, so there'll be one more, and happy to answer that. And I'll just say here at the end that it's really, really been good to talk to you. Now, Victoria, yes, you did. Long-term members. Let me just run back on your question, Victoria.
While Kevin finds the first part of the question, we've also added the link to our LinkedIn group in the message box there as well. So if you would like further details, please feel free to join that group and have the ability to meet other people who are looking at membership as well. We'll also put the webinar on YouTube, so there'll be the ability to view the webinar with the recording at a later date via YouTube.
Okay. Sorry, Victoria. Gotcha. What about engaging long-term members? Absolutely. I think that is an excellent question, and it is so important. You never forget the ones who've been with you for a long time. And there's a number of things that you can do. For instance, you can have awards or rewards for 5-year veterans, 10-year veterans, 15-year veterans, etc. You can give them all sorts of recognition. I've known of a sporting club, for instance, that is building a wall, and each brick is named after a member that's been there a certain number of years. You can build their status. You can go from bronze to silver to gold to platinum to, I don't know, kryptonite. There is a number of things that you can do depending on your organization to engage with your long-term members and keep them very, very active. And one of the things could also say, Victoria and everybody, is to see if you can use some of your longer-term members, if you can utilize their skills to be volunteers, to actually mentor new members. A lot of them really, really love to do that. So yeah, I think there's all sorts of rewards and awards and recognition for long-term members, and I think you can engage very usefully with long-term members and use their skills. And I hope that answers the question. Any other question? Now, yeah, here we are. Yeah, long-term members appreciate in the magazine, the website, send them a certificate, offer complimentary memberships for a year. Absolutely. I love it all. And thank you, everybody that's saying thanks, and we really appreciated having you. Okay, my last slide of the day. You see Kevin here at Zoos Victoria? Can you see what an absolute wimp I am? I'm standing at absolute arm's length from that elephant. There's the trainer, and the trainer's quite used to the elephant, but it was a very, very enjoyable experience. So that's the end of the slide. And yes, thank you, everybody. It was really good working with you. Any other questions before Alex and I go? Alex, anything else you'd like to say?
No, we certainly look forward to hearing from you further. Please do join our LinkedIn group, and certainly happy to assist.
That would be great. And you can send, if I don't know if you've got Alex's email address, but if you want to visit our website, send me an email, and I'll pass anything over to Alex that you want, or you can communicate via the LinkedIn group, which is the last thing there as we go. All right, everybody, I think, Isa, you're going to take over now?
Yes, so thank you, Kevin and Alex, and thanks everyone for joining today's webinar. If anyone would like to sign up to Kevin's newsletter or would like to hear from Redback on how to host your own webinars, then please feel free to let us know in the exit survey, which you will now be redirected to. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.